Still, the oligarchs appeared to accumulate other motives by World War I. After buying out the major newspapers, the eugenics folks put out much propaganda and put much pressure on President Woodrow Wilson's administration to enter the First World War in 1917. When the government entered the war and implemented the draft that year, the eugenics-minded oligarchs used the opportunity to test 1 to 2 dozen experimental vaccines on the soldiers. These vaccines were created by the Rockefeller Institute for Medical Research. A one-time reporter who lived through the 1918 epidemic, Eleanor McBean, Ph.D., wrote about it extensively in several books. McBean claimed that the influenza wasn't a flu started in Spain, as the racist eugenics folks pushed, but actually a reaction to the vast amounts of vaccines the Rockefeller Institute used to experiment on millions of American and European soldiers. Dr. McBean presented how
the report of the Surgeon General of the Army, 1919, Volume 1, page 37, gives the number of admissions to hospitals during the year 1918 on account of vaccinia, vaccination disease, as 10,830. The report of 1918 gave the number as 19,608 during 1917. This does not take into account the thousands who were seriously ill but not critical enough to be hospitalized.
In another book, McBean cited how the Army report stated,
7 men dropped dead in the doctor's office from vaccines, and 28,585 came down with cases of hepatitis as a direct result of the yellow fever vaccine during only 6 months of the war. That was only one of the 14 to 25 shots given the soldiers.
Klaus Kohnlein, MD, a specialist in internal diseases, wrote this book which covered the 1918 epidemic, with contributions from preventive medicine expert Joachim Mutter, MD, and environmental lawyer Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Kohnlein quoted McBean as saying that a soldier told her,
the Army hospitals were filled with cases of infantile paralysis from polio, and he wondered why grown men should have an infant disease. Now we know that paralysis is a common after effect of vaccine poisoning.
As a one-time reporter turned investigating scientist, Dr. McBean also said,
as far as I could find out, the flu hit only the vaccinated. Those who had refused the shots escaped the flu. My family had refused the vaccinations, so we remained well all the time. Places that didn't use vaccines or drugs, including non-medical hospitals, were getting almost 100% healings.
And she added that one doctor who avoided the use of any problematic drugs or vaccines
didn't lose a patient in 8 years, from 1918 to 1920.